Alright everybody, I'm doing a video on how to make a Orgone blanket. Pretty sure it's pronounced Orgone. And I'm going to show you step by step on how to make this. What this does is this captures the Orgone energy of the universe, and you can call it Orgone, you can call it 0 point energy, you can call it the ether. I think Tesla called it, what did he call it? I can't remember. If you know what Tesla called it, put it in the comments. But a lot of people swear by these blankets. Robert Reich is the one that started this, and he built the Orgone Accumulator boxes that really help alleviate symptoms. Some say they help you feel better, give you lots of energy. I'm hoping if you make this blanket, you'll get energy. So I'm going to show you how to make the blanket correctly. There's a few videos out there, but they have mistakes. This I believe I've solved the mistakes. I've built one, and it did give me, I built one years ago, and it did give me some relief for some symptoms that I had, but I think there was a flaw in it, and most of the tutorials on how to build these have a flaw. I'm going to show you what the flaw is right now. So, Orgone blanket tutorial right now. Alright, so what's your first thing you have to do is you've got to get your materials together. First of all, you need cloth. And what I did is I took an old bed sheet and I cut a long swath of 12 inches. Now, this is just going to be a pad. It's a blanket, but not really. It's more of a pad for putting over your body. If you have a sore foot, you have a burn on your hand or your foot, or there's something wrong with your stomach or your chest or your heart or whatever, this is going to be a 12 inches by 12 inches blanket that targets certain areas of your body. That's what you want anyway. You want to target, you can put it on your head. If you have a headache, put it right on your forehead. It'll help your forehead. Now, a disclaimer, I'm not claiming this will cure or diagnose any disease, so don't report me, don't report me or anything. All I'm going to say is this, for me, the Orgone pad or blanket helps alleviate symptoms of certain things that you have. Let's just say headaches. For me, it works. It pretty much took my headache right away. But my original design had a flaw in it. I think it stopped working after a while. I'm going to show you what that flaw is. Okay, so you want a long piece of cloth. I used an old bed sheet, cut it at 12 inches. 12 inches. Alright, 12 by 12 basically is what you want. 12 inches by 12 inches. And the secret is, you want it, the secret that's different with this blanket and others is I'm using 2 layers of cloth in between each layer of metal material. You have to use iron, and he suggested, Robert Reich said, you want to use steel wool. So you're going to have to get steel wool and cloth. And the secret I've got, it's going to be, mine is different than others, is I have 2 layers. So you're going to start with 2 layers. See how I did that? 2 layers, lay it as flat as possible, smooth it out. Then you want to get some steel wool. Now you want to get 0000 steel wool. That's what you want. I'll show you right here. So steel wool, and there's different grades. You want to get 0000, which is fine. You want it as fine as possible. Alright, you want to buy One bag should be enough. It's really cheap. And you can use the cloth, you can just use something old for a cloth. An old sheet or towels or whatever. But one thing you want is you want to make sure the density of the material is very dense. It's not, you don't want holes in it. You don't want something airy. You want density, and I'm going to tell you why. This is the secret. So you're using 2 layers to start with, a very dense material, cotton. And Robert Reich said you want to use an organic material. It has to be organic. So try to stay with cotton, or at least a cotton blend. I think cotton is the best, and this is cotton. It's 100% cotton. Okay, then you want to take a piece of steel wool. Now everybody else, the other videos, open this thing up all the way, and you can do that, and they have you spread it out, right? And you can certainly do that if you want to, but when you spread this out, it gets really thin, right? And if you're going to be capturing orgone, I think it's too thin. So I'm going to make a smaller one. I'm going to open it up about that much, fold it over, so then, and put it right in the center, okay? So if you do that, it's about 7 inches by 7 inches, okay? Approximately. So, and that's enough. That's enough to target a headache or a heart problem or your foot. If you have a foot problem, a pain anywhere, elbow, hand, arthritis, any kind of pain that you have, this will help alleviate the symptoms. Okay, I'm not saying it's going to cure anybody, but some people have reported that it has happened. And you want to put it right in the middle. Now, so you've got a thick piece. Now you want to take another piece of cloth, which I've already got them all cut out. Here's another piece of cloth. Now here it's double. So you've got double cloth, and you want to lay it right over the top of it. First, smooth this out, right? And you don't want any pieces of the steel wool poking. So if you feel it poking, you don't want that. I'm going to tell you why in a second. So smooth that out so there's no sharp pokey pieces coming out, and I'm going to tell you why. It's very important. Then you take the cloth, lay it on top. Now I've got the folded part over here, so I'm going to put the other folded over here to make it equal. So I'll lay it right on the top, okay? Now, the reason you don't want it poking through is you don't want it to short out. Now, steel wool is steel, it's iron, and if it pokes through the cloth to the next layer of steel wool, it shorts it out. You don't want to short out the energy. You want it to be accumulated. That's the whole thing. It's an accumulator. This is an orgone blanket that accumulates orgone energy from the ether, 0-point energy, whatever you want to call it. It captures it, concentrates it like a capacitor. So really what we're building here is a big capacitor. A capacitor is just pieces of metal, film, and insulated by an insulating material like paper. That's all a capacitor is, simple. And this is a big capacitor because we've got the insulating material here and we've got steel wool. Now I don't feel anything poking through. That's the thing. You don't want to, the secret here is this. What makes my video different than others, I'm using 2 layers of cloth in between each layer of steel wool so you don't short out the steel wool and it won't short out the power. You want the orgone energy to accumulate, and to do that you don't want it to short out. Okay, simple as that. So now I've got to get another piece of steel wool here. It comes out of the bag like this. You've got to open it up, and it's a little tricky. You want to go slow. You don't want to mess this up. This one's not really that great a piece. This piece is much bigger than the last piece. Alright, so I'm spreading it out. No, I think it's the same. It's the same. Okay, you got to spread it out a little bit. I got one layer here. Careful to get all the layers open. Spread it out a little bit. Alright, so I've got it spread out. Now you want to fold it again, because we want this to be the same size, and you want it right over the top of the other piece. So that's about right. Now you want it exactly over the next piece. Very important. I'm going to tell you why here. So looking at this, I can just feel where it's at. You want to lay it exactly over the top, because you want the metal to mesh perfectly, so it creates a capacitor. This is just a big capacitor. So there. So I folded it over to make it thicker, folded it down, pressed it down. I don't feel anything poking through. Done. Now we got another piece of cloth right here. And again, it's doubled. I've already prepared all this. I'm going to use the doubled part on this side this time, because we did it on that side last time. And put it right over the top. Just like that. So now we've got 2 layers of steel wool insulated by the cotton sheet. Now I've read that Robert Reich said that 2 layers is fine, but I think 3 is better. So I'm going to do 3 layers. And if you're going to do this, you might as well do it right. So I've got another piece of steel wool here. Let's see. I'll use this one. And you open it up. Hopefully this is opening. It feels weird when you first do this. And again, this is double or quadruple zero steel wool, which is very, very fine steel wool. You want to open it up again, like so. Okay, open it up. It kind of looks like a toupee. Weird. Okay, so you open this up like that. We got kind of a spot in here, kind of a. You want it to be equal, you know. You don't want any open spots or anything. You want it equal. I wonder if they make some kind of steel wool pads or something, so it'd be equal. I think it'd be better, but this is cheaper, I'm sure. So open it up, fold it over, smooth it, turn it over again, smooth it so there's nothing poking through. And again, the reason you don't want it poking through the cloth to short out the next piece of steel wool. You don't want it shorting out. Okay? Very important. That's the secret here between my video and others' videos. You don't want the steel wool shorting to the other steel wool. You want it, that's a true capacitor. If you have a capacitor and the plates touch each other because the dielectric breaks down, it shorts out the capacitor and it blows up. Excuse me. So That's what you want to do. Now, last piece in the puzzle here. Let's see, I have this side, so I'm going to put it over there. Again, doubled. It's doubled, 2 pieces. So, what do you got? You got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have 4 pieces of cloth doubled over at 12 inches by 12 inches. Okay? So 4 pieces at 24 inches, folded in half. And then 3 steel wool. So 4 of these, 3 steel wool. Some videos showed them leaving the steel wool exposed and putting it in a pillowcase. I think it's ridiculous. You know, that you want to use the cloth right now and sew it all together. You don't want it in a cloth or something. It's the same thing, really, but this is much better, and I'll show you why. Okay, put this over the top. Is pretty much done. All the steel wool pads are stacked right on top of each other, surrounded by the cotton, right? So you're done. So now all you got to do is get needle and thread and just start sewing it up. And what you want to do is you want to sew it around the outside, and then last one I did a crisscross. I did this way and this way, because you want it to be tight. You want the capacitor to be somewhat tight, but not super tight. You don't want it to short again, but you want it tight. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do in this. Oh, and the thread you want to use is cotton thread too. Make sure, don't use any plastic thread. Try to use pure cotton thread. I've got cotton thread here. That's important. Don't use any plastic anything in here. It's not advised. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I might just do a crisscross pattern. So corner to corner, and then around the outside. Just sew it up. Alright? I'll start like this. And then when you're all done, you can trim the edges or leave it, or whatever you want to do. But you want to make sure when you sew it, you sew around the steel wool. And so it's, you know, so it's tight in there. Alright, so I'm gonna, you don't need to see how I sew this. I'm gonna stop the video and then I'll come back when I get it sewn. Alright? Alright, so I've sewn it. As you can see, I've sewn it and it looks kind of like a quilt. It kind of pops up. Now, I'm not the best sewing person in the planet, but I just went around the outside, as you can see, the outside of the steel wool, and this side puffs up a little bit better. Now, my last blanket I made, I put a crisscross in it, but I'm not going to do that with this one. I think what I'm going to do is shore up the outside, tighten it up that way, and I think it's going to work better. And I might cut this off, but one of my threads I kind of made a little long, so I have to be careful how I cut it. But and I might have my wife sew this on a sewing machine, just on the outside to make it look nice. Possibly later. So I might just leave all this extra cloth in until that's done, and then trim it. It'll look really cool then. But I'm going to sew it a little bit more on the outside. Now, I did make a mistake. I said Robert Reich. It's Wilhelm Reich. I made a mistake there. So, if you want to look this up, it's Wilhelm Reich, R-E-I-C-H. Orgone Accumulator, blanket, or pad. That's what we're making here today. As you can see, it's simple. All you should really have to buy is the steel wool. You can use old cloth laying around your house. If you have to buy cloth, get some cotton cloth somewhere, Walmart, whatever. It should be cheap. just get remnants. You don't need anything fancy. You don't even need to, it doesn't even have to be the same. It can be different colors. Don't spend a lot of money. Go to Walmart or wherever you go and buy cloth, garage sales even. But you do have to buy the steel wool. Again, it's really cheap. I can't remember what I paid for it. So make your Orgone accumulator blanket or pad. Put it on something that hurts, something that you want to make feel better. Disclaimer, I'm not saying it's going to heal you, but it could. Who knows? Put it on the affliction you have. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. I don't know. It didn't cost you anything. Give it a try. According to Wilhelm Reich, it works, okay? And he's got his books out there. And give it a try. So, there's my secrets. Again, I'll go over this quickly. You got to have 1, 2, 3, 4 double sheets. They have to be double. Open up your steel wool. Put it in between. I've got 3 layers of steel wool here. I'm going to sew this a little tighter so it looks more like a blanket, like a little mini blanket, right? And that's it. That's how you make your Orgone accumulator blanket. Make one. Try it. Please come back in the comments and put in the comments. It worked for me. I don't have pain in my arthritic toe anymore. Or I've got arthritis in my hands and it makes it feel better. Go ahead and put it in the comments. I'd really appreciate that if you do that. If you're going to make the effort to make it, use it, put a comment in there. I'd like to know. And I'm going to do the same. I will go in and I'll put a comment in after I get this done. And I put it on. I've got a little problem with my right toe. I'm going to put it on that, see what happens. And I do have a little problem with some heart palpitation, a little bit once in a while. I don't know what it is. I'm old. But I'm going to put it on my heart and see if that helps. I don't know. Is it going to help? Like I said, my first one I made did work. It seemed to work fine. It helped me in a few things, but then it stopped. Or it didn't work as well, and I think it's because the material was too thin. The steel wool poked through and shorted out. You don't want that. You want it to be completely insulated. And if you look at the Orgone accumulator, the big one, the big box that you can also make, look that up. It's well insulated. The metal is very insulated from the other pieces of metal, with 2, 3, 4 inches of insulation, so it's very insulated. And alright, so I'm going to sign off. Again, we got the Orgone blanket, right? Here it is, Orgone blanket or pad. This is how you make it. Please subscribe and click the bell for more videos, and also share this out there in social media if you can. I appreciate it. Alright, ChemTrailsMN signing off.